Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to AJC and the Web Devs. We got returning guests now, Monarch Wadia. I think if anyone saw you last week, they probably already know who you are. Why don't you introduce yourself anyway?
Sure. So I'm a full stack web developer. I like hacking away on TypeScript and Python. And these days I'm building a library called Ragged. And Ragged is it's a simple wrapper for large language models so that you can bring AI into your front end and your back end really easily. I'm trying to make it so that everything is very standardized, and it's a community project. So there's a few different people working on it right now, and it's early stages. We just got our first pull request from a contributor that I have to review now and I have to merge in. So yeah, we're version 0.2. If anybody's interested in AI and large language models, and they're more of a web developer or even a junior developer, then there's plenty of room for documentation, writing, and writing examples and contributing to the community. And yeah, we're open to contributors. The other thing is that I'm also looking for work. So if anybody wants someone with 12 plus years of experience, managing teams, running their own startups, a self-starter, quote unquote, entrepreneurial drive, quote unquote. Basically, I can make stuff happen and build stuff and deploy stuff. And I've built plenty of apps on my own from 0 to 1. So if anybody's looking for someone like me, I'm super open to it. I'm also open to larger companies. But anyway, that's my little plug. Hire me, give me money. Coming back to Ragged and the topic today, Anthony, I guess the topic is how to publish to NPM.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you were kind of suggesting to me at the end of our last episode, hello, Fuzzy Bear, that you felt like, I should take my show note kind of auto-generating thing to the next level. And one of the things that would entail, we were kind of chatting about it in messages afterwards, would be like just making it like an NPM CLI you could just install, and then you can kind of work it into your JavaScript projects a little easier. It wouldn't just be this like giant bash script you would have to deal with anymore. And I've had these thoughts as I've been building this, that like once I got it to like just the functionality I wanted, then how can I turn it into this other kind of thing? And I did try and build just like a full Node version and got pretty close, but didn't quite make it work entirely in the end in the way exactly I wanted it to. So I ended up kind of reverting back to just like the bash script. But you're in the middle of building this project and you're like publishing to NPM, and it's something that kind of feels like a huge gap in my, it's like a rite of passage as we see here. Oh, publishing to NPM, fun. This is a great way to put it, because everyone I know who's done it said it's very challenging. And then they're always asking, where can I find a template? Where can I find resources? Like, who has actually created content explaining how to do this? And it's pretty sparse. So hopefully this conversation we have here will actually end up being a useful resource for people. You don't do it first time. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm not even expected to have anything published by the end of this. This is kind of more of like setting out the what is it, and I want to know how you did it, and like kind of what resources you did use or didn't. If you were just like straight up NPM CLI is all you need, or who knows. So feel free to kind of talk about your own experience with it right now.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just hop into it. So publishing to NPM, publish it to JSR. Okay.
JSR is Dino's NPM competitor.
Gotcha. I have never used Dino, although I've heard great things about it. So good to know that JSR is like NPM for Dino. My first ever NPM package was MKR component. Okay, cool. So when you publish, you are basically pushing a bunch of code to NPM, and then that gets registered against NPM. That part is super easy. You can do that on a simple hello world as long as you have a package.json and a few fields like the main file, stuff like that defined. Pushing to NPM is actually one command. It's just NPM publish, and then you put in the name of the package. So publishing is not the hard part. The hard part is to make sure that it works after you publish it on somebody else's machine. So
right, which is like a hard thing to test, because you need a separate machine or a friend, basically.
Yeah. In my case, it was people who wanted to try out the project, and they started working on it on their locals. So they would message me. I think you tried it out, and you were like, "Hey, Monarch, this thing's broken. What's happening?" I was like, "Oh crap. Okay." So I went and I fixed it really quickly, and then next day I pushed it and I asked you, "Hey, can you try it again?" And it worked. So that's really the most natural, organic way to test it, is just get your friends or people who you know to just use it. And then if it breaks, then you know that it's broken. It sort of feels weird, right? Because we're always told, don't test in production, don't test in production. But it's really, it's about risk management. What's the risk of breaking a package that nobody uses? It's zero.
Right.
I think the easiest way to just do it is to just do it through trial and error and not worry about breaking stuff or doing it wrong the first time, because NPM is very forgiving. If you're using Semver and you're just incrementing patch versions, uh, that's all you need to do to publish a package, is increment the patch version, which is like the 0.0.x part. The X is the patch version. And as long as you have no users in the beginning, you can solve those early, publishing problems without any issues. Now, if you already have a package published and you're changing the build process, it gets a little trickier at that point. So maybe you want to publish it to, I think there are NPM replacements like private repos out there. So maybe you want to publish it like that. Maybe you want to, there's different ways to deal with it. Like you can npm install from a directory on your local. So there are different ways to test and deal with it. But really, that's not the hard problem. The hard problem is making sure that your exports are set correctly. So I can get into that while we build it out. Do you want to do this together on your local? Do you want to do it on mine?
So would you be willing to show some of the Ragged stuff that you've done? And we can look at that first, and then we can switch to mine and kind of see where we want to go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So
okay, are we recommending change sets and Semver out of the box? So I do know what these things are to a certain extent. This is just kind of like if you want to build in processes so that as you get more contributors who are pushing more stuff, you have a clear idea of like what's changing and what's not, essentially, right?
Yeah, I'm not recommending change sets. I had to go look up change sets immediately. Like I don't know what change sets is, but this looks super useful.
You'll see this for like projects like Redwood, like really big projects. This stuff is really, really important. And I was actually, as you were saying the last couple stuff, I was kind of thinking about, this was where I first learned a lot of this stuff just being a user, because Redwood was a project that I followed version to version for like a very long time, So I would see kind of when there would be minor versions, and then like that would take, a year and a half to like kind of do major versions. And then when stuff breaks, you do the patch version. And like, this is Tom, like Tom wrote the first Semver kind of explanation. So for him, he was always like very clear about this. He's like, this is the way you do it. You have major versions. And then if stuff breaks, you have to do another major version. Otherwise you do minor versions to just build new features. And then when there's an actual just a patch fix, then you need to do it in the third one. So that was always really useful just for me to like kind of live that process for like a year and kind of just embed it in, because some people, they'll just kind of increment numbers and not really think about it, I think.
Yeah. I'm just doing Semver for the version, like the version SAR in Semver format, and I'm just manually incrementing them. But change sets is cool. Like change sets is this library that lets you automatically increment versions and stuff, which looks interesting. But I'm not using that or anything automated. What I do is I just increment the version manually in package.json before I push, and that's how I'm doing it. So I can walk you guys through how I'm doing it in Ragged, and I'm open to feedback and critique because it's not going to be perfect. It's working right now, and there's a bunch of limitations. Like none of the version pushes. We're not really documenting all of the change sets right now, and that's going to be a bit of a pain in the beginning too, because we're just changing. Right now, it's in the expect your API to break. phase. So
yeah, that's where
every
you have a big disclaimer on your README at the top, just saying this is in beta, this is not production ready, this will change and break at any moment. Like as long as you just kind of make that very explicit at the top, you can kind of live with that.
Totally. That's I've been working on documentation, so I have to figure out how to add that warning as a template. So, but right now I've added like monitoring
doing it like a pure bot.
Yeah, man, I'm a cowboy. So it's let me share my screen. Where's my screen?
Yeah, and if you don't know Fuzzy Bear, he used to be involved, well, still is involved, but he used to work for Astro and now works for the Linux Foundation.
Ah, wow, very cool. Well, nice to meet you.
Okay, let me know when I should add your screen to the thing.
You can add it now. Thank you for asking.
Yep.
Awesome. So here is Ragged. So Ragged is a PNPM workspace.
Bump up a few fonts. Bump up your font a few times, just for
sure.
in your editor. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so Ragged is a PNPM workspace, and it has the main package, which is here. Then it has documentation, which is here. And then it has a bunch of examples, which are all in examples.
Okay, yeah, let's like stop right here, because this is great. So PNPM is kind of required for what you're doing, because you're specifically using their workspaces, which would be different if you were using, say, Yarn.
Exactly. And people who are using Ragged, they don't have to care about this. This is just if you're developing on Ragged, then yeah, you need PNPM.
Yeah, so this is the stuff. These are the decisions I'm gonna have to make like right now. So that's why I'm honing on these things, because I've used so back to Redwood. Redwood
Sure.
is and has been Yarn only forever, and so I used Yarn from like 2020 to 2022 or so, and it was the only thing I used. And then eventually PNPM came around and was just a lot of people thought was way better. And a lot of people who had been using Yarn kind of moved back to NPMs. Like Yarn has kind of become less and less of a viable option, I think, over the years. And like it still works. Like you can use it, but it just doesn't really seem like the right decision for a lot of reasons. But I went back to NPM because I just found that I use things like Volta, which can be kind of weird with PNPM, which that's my node manager instead of NVM. And the just other stuff. But for like workspaces and stuff, like this was thing that didn't even exist in NPM for a while. Now it does, but I've heard that this is where PNPM really shines, is for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's PNPM is I haven't plumbed all its I haven't plumbed its depths for all of its intricacies, but the feeling I'm getting is that it's like NPM, but it's faster like Yarn because it caches packages. Mm-hmm. And it also has little utilities like PNPM-R, which recursively can run a command across all of your packages. Mm-hmm. So it's got like, it's a lot better for mono repos is what it looks like.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So shall we move on? Should I explain how we're publishing?
Let's see. I got 2 tool recommendations for this point: VS Code workspaces on top of PNPM workspaces. I'm not sure if you know anything about VS Code workspaces.
I do. I'm not using it because it just feels like for this project, it's not super necessary, because the only thing that I'm really, the only important thing is really Ragged, which is the main folder. And the other things are, I just go through my CLI and I do PNPM.
I'm not sure that I know what VS Code workspaces are.
Oh, okay.
Or does that just mean like just general, like literally when you have a specific workspace with specific settings? Like, I don't usually use that in general, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the exact thing. Yeah, I find it a little clunky and a little onerous. It's worth it for projects of a certain size, but for a project of this size, for personally, I'm just going into the CLI and doing all of the commands manually. I don't even use the run and debug. I just do it from the CLI. That's just my workflow.
Yeah, and I feel like once you're gonna And I feel like once you want to build in more automations and stuff like that, I would want to do that at like a GitHub action level, not necessarily like at my editor level.
Yeah. There's GitHub Actions built into this too. So
yeah, that's what I
I'm
figured.
using it to deploy Docusaurus and NPM Publish.
That's great. So then your docs stay in sync with everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, one thing about NPM and Git is that people often conflate the two because they think that just because there's a URL on the NPM site. So if I go, just to make this more concrete, right? So if I go to Ragged's NPM, and if I go here and I look at, pretty standard, quick start, link to the documentation. So if I go here and I look in this section, there's the repository here. And because of this link, a lot of people think that you get exactly what you see. So you get the exact version that's on GitHub. That's what gets published to NPM. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
So how it works is NPM is totally independent from GitHub. You don't even need a repository to publish NPM. You can publish it right from your CLI without any Git.
And this is also what makes it a freaking security nightmare, because just anyone can push any code anytime they want. You got no guarantees. You can't see the code. You're just going to download to your machine and run it and pray to God.
Yep.
It's absolutely insane that this is what we do day to day. But we got a comment here. So in enterprise land, tooling and control of each environment is crucial from dev to prod. This goes for shared dev environments. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I like, though, about scrappy open source stuff, is that you can kind of just get something working. And as long as you feel like it's going to be comprehensible to other devs, then they can kind of figure it out. But I imagine at one point, if you do want to make this legit, you'll start building in some of these higher level things that Fuzzy Bear is talking about.
Yep, for sure. Like it says zero dependencies and zero dependence, because that's what goes off of, that's package.json that NPM is reading. So NPM will read package.json, but it won't go and actually read your GitHub because it doesn't care.
Could we see the package.json you do have with the actual dependencies? I'm curious.
Yes. So so all of it comes from Ragged's folder. So this is the
can you close your terminal?
Yeah, sure.
Just for this section.
Absolutely.
All right, Fuzzy Bear says we gotta check out DevBox, so we'll put a pin in this and check it out in a second.
So this is my package.json, and here are the dependencies. So I have a couple of peer dependencies.
Wow, this is like nothing. This is such a tiny library.
Yes.
It's incredible. Yes. Like it's really nice how little is happening here. Like this, like that, I can look at this and it feels very comprehensible to me. Like, I look at some open source things, it's like 50 libraries. It's just like some insane number. And it's all this stuff I've never heard of. And they got like 9 ESLint configs. And I'm just like, my God.
How many ESLints I have? I have like 1, 2, 3 ESLint configs. I only have 3, but yes. It's a nightmare, and it's crazy what we do on a day-to-day basis. But this is how it works. So peer dependencies, I'm going to take out RxJS at some point because I don't really need RxJS. It's just part of the API now. But honestly, I can take this out at some point. OpenAI, I'm probably going to take that out sooner rather than later. But OpenAI is kind of just there because.
Are you going to build your own kind of wrapper to access the API, OpenAI's API?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Exactly. So the only reason this exists is because I don't want to do that, and because all the drivers are just built into Ragged right now.
Right, but you're saying you're going to take it out. So do you plan to build that out?
I think the official OpenAI driver for Ragged is always going to have OpenAI as a dependency.
Okay.
Unless
but it won't be. But you can make it so it's not necessarily required if you want to use a different provider at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's already there. It's just I have to change how the constructor takes the object right now. I have to. There's some stuff to do on the dependency resolution side, like which exact driver are we using. That's the only thing that's stopping me. But it's a new project. The only official driver right now is OpenAI, and nobody's using it, so it's not urgent that I have to support custom drivers. But custom drivers are already easily added. We already have an abstract ragged driver, and this is the interface where you can just build the driver. So theoretically, it should be possible for anybody to pull this in as a dev dependency and build off of abstract ragged driver.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I don't know if any of that made sense. It sounded like technobabble even to me.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Still thinking kind of high level here. So let's take a look at like the documentation or the examples, the other high level directories that aren't ragged right now. So documentation and examples. So sure. I think the documentation, that's just going to be a docu-source site. So that's kind of like any sort of static site generator you can plop in here. Like you could have an Astro project here instead of a docu-source project, right?
Correct.
That's probably what I'll do, because actually I do like docu-source a lot and I've used it a bunch, but I'll probably end up plopping Astro in because I've already built out somewhat of an integration. I did this with Ben Holmes on his stream where the output of AutoGen, because it creates a markdown file like I was showing last time, and then you could just have that set up with an Astro content collection, which defines all of your front matter basically with ZOS. You can make your like front matter type safe, so it can make sure you have a correct date and stuff like that. And you can have, say, your description needs to be a certain amount of characters, and then it'll like break your build if your front matter doesn't conform to these certain things. So the markdown it spits out can be matched with that. So that's kind of like a thing I'm thinking about where you're going to have it like an output of a website almost from the tool itself.
Yeah, I use Jekyll for my blog. So Jekyll is it's just so elegant and simple. I just really like it. And Jekyll you could use Jekyll. You could use you could even use HTML files.
Yeah, Astro Starlight is under specific. The Astro team basically has been building a kind of higher level Astro library, which is specifically for documentation. And it does all sorts of nice stuff for you. Like if you're going to have multiple languages, you can switch tabs. It does like all these really nice Git diffing highlights. And it's super, super sweet. I've been slowly building in some of those features into my Astro blog, just piece by piece. But yeah, this is a little bit off topic, but this is I'm all about the static site generator. So this is the deploy step, which is basically just installing directories, doing a build, and then setting up pages. Let's configure pages.
This is just configuring GitHub pages.
Because this is the GitHub pages. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then upload pages artifact just pushes your static assets to GitHub pages. And you have to specify where. So I've configured my docu-source to build inside the build directory. I think it might be set up like that just out of the box. And yeah, so first thing it'll do is it'll build in GitHub Actions. Then it'll take the build folder and deploy that to GitHub Pages. Really, really simple. Not much to see here. It's really boring, actually. The NPM publish might be more on topic, and maybe I should just show you how I'm doing that.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated. Why don't you just for this section, why don't you close your left side of your editor, the file directory, and then you can bump up one on your font. That's perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this one is also, this is for publishing ragged to NPM.js.
And just like, for anyone who go up to the very top, actually, and just because I know some people, if they're like really, really noobs, they'll never even seen this before. So this is a GitHub action, which is like the coolest technology once you actually learn it. And basically what's happening here is when you push to branch main, a thing is going to happen. That's why it says on push branches main. And this is where you could build in other type stuff if you wanted to have like a preview branch, right? And then jobs is where the actual build is happening. So here is where you have to explain what's actually happening for me.
Yep. So it runs on an Ubuntu box. So it's exactly like WSL more or less, not exactly. It was more or less like WSL or Linux, and it's a Linux machine that runs on, and it does a bunch of setup. Honestly, a lot of this is just boilerplate stuff
So that's setting the node version. So if you want to have specific node features, you need to make sure you're using the right node version.
Yep, it's checking out the main the main branch here, I'm guessing, because it says check out a Git repo, and then it uses setup node, so it's setting up node with version 20.x. Then it's installing PNPM. Then it's getting the PNPM store directory. So this is just boilerplate. This saves a bunch of build time because it caches, PNPM caches all of the node modules that it downloads, so it doesn't have to download them over and over again. Just goes to the cache and pulls them out. So this enables that for PNPM. Sets up cache for PNPM. We're still in PNPM. Now it does the install. Finally here, now we're in like, not even actually. This is like copying a documentation page for some reason, which I can get into, but then you do a PNPM build. Now, finally, after everything is built, then what this does is NPM publish inside the Ragged directory with an auth token, which has been provided to GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions, I gave GitHub Actions inside the GitHub Actions dashboard on the browser. I gave it an NPM token, and that lets GitHub Actions act on my behalf to publish. So if I do NPM publish on my local, I have to log in before I can do NPM publish. This is the same as logging in on the GitHub Actions side.
This is one of the nice things about the fact that NPM and GitHub are owned by the same company now.
Is NPM owned by Microsoft now?
NPM is owned by GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft, I think is how that nesting structure ended up happening. Or maybe it's been Microsoft just bought NPM, but it's all under the same corporate structure now. It has been for a couple of years.
Wow. So we're all just Microsoft developers. Awesome. TypeScript is owned by Microsoft too. So is VS Code.
It's pretty nuts. And they're the ones who partner with OpenAI.
And I'm running this on a Windows. So
that's where you got me. I don't run Windows.
You know what? Neither did I until I realized that WSL is seamless.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah. Best developer experience. It's shocking.
That's funny. I guess I heard bad things, but I felt like that was there's WSL 1 and now you're on WSL 2. It's like a whole different ball game. So I have heard since they actually made it work correctly, it's been really nice.
WSL 2 supports like WSL 1 didn't support Windows integration, so you can't really see what's happening in WSL 1. It's all just like the terminal. But WSL 2, they have that now. So if you open up like a graphics application or a game inside the Linux side, it'll actually render that in a window on your Windows side, so you can actually see what's happening. So it's seamless, basically.
So someone's asking if WSL2 is slow with files still.
Really? I did not notice that.
Yeah, it may be, certain machines just behave different ways. If they're old enough, then you can have issues. And maybe if you're running certain workloads, it can be faster. So it's like saying like an operating system is slow or fast is just not high resolution enough, I think, really. So I don't know, maybe for whatever you're doing, it's not so for whatever it was, who knows.
Gotcha. I don't know. I'm a Linux guy, so I'm just happy that I can both have my Linux and also play video games. So that's me. Also, it's nice because I don't have to worry about driver issues with, say, CUDA, because I'm learning CUDA and I'm working with
here. They're saying it has something to do with drivers, which I don't know. The first. I couldn't even tell you what a driver is, really. Like it's a thing you plug into a computer to do something. I don't know.
The driver is when there's two physical devices, you have to wire them up with copper, right? Like copper wires are going through them. So a driver is the software that converts the physical signals into digital data, basically. It's the software that like converts that stuff into something that can be used. Now, it doesn't have to be hardware at the bottom. It can just be like a lower level hardware item. Like for me, a driver
So it
inside
doesn't.
Rag.
So it doesn't have to be like plugging in like a CD-ROM drive or something. It can just be a thing that's already built into your computer.
Yeah, so the CD-ROM drive is the physical thing, but even if it's built into your computer, it'll have a driver that lets it'll have a driver on the host side that makes sense of the data that's coming from the hardware. Does that make sense?
Okay, it does. I've never gotten deep enough into hardware to where I have a large enough mental frame and like knowledge tree to where I can like hang on something specific that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like what, not necessarily that, but what you said made sense, because like I think the problem why drivers get confusing for me is that I feel like the computer has abstracted more and more physical things, and almost everything just runs over Wi-Fi. And like I plug in like an HDMI cable sometimes to my computer, but that's pretty much it. Like, or like power, or my phone. So I guess those probably all involve drivers in some respect, But anyway, this is a super off topic, so let's get back to the NPM stuff.
Sure, whatever you want. I was just going to give you a really simple example just to
Go for it. Yeah,
drive home.
go for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Drive home. Huh?
Let's say you have 16 bits of RAM. Okay, super underpowered computer. So you have 0000, and you have 16 bits of RAM, and that's all you have.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all, because it's such a simple computer. Let's just say it's like the size of an average Lego toy, like a Lego castle. So you can actually imagine all of these are the size of Lego bricks. They're copper wires, but they're the size of Lego bricks, so you can actually touch them and zap yourself, right? So if you think about it, the difference between a 0 and a 1 is really the difference between the voltage that's running through a wire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
I know this stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So on the software side, you can do stuff like you can write code on the software side where it's like get RAM at, and I can't remember the C++ commands for this, but if you can get RAM at 1, 2, which is the coordinate of this guy, then on the software side, const val, which is a bool, is get RAM at 1, 2. Mm-hmm. And that will get you either 1 or 0, depending on the voltage amount in the wire, right? In the RAM cell. So if I physically went in here and I hooked that up to a light switch, and I could flip the switch on and off, then I could flip the actual value of the RAM cell by turning a physical switch on and off. Because if I turn the switch off on my wall, or maybe it's a little circuit that I've built, if I turn the switch on and off, that value flips from 0 to 1. Now, this code of yours, how does it know whether it's 0 or 1? Well, at some point, there's some lower level of abstraction that goes in and it reads that 0 or 1, and it gets the actual voltage, for lack of a better word, and converts it into a 0 or 1. And that can be done either on the hardware side or the software side, depending on your architecture.
After going through a compiler and interpreter and all that stuff.
Sure. I mean, those are words. Like we could say compiler, interpreter.
You said this code, which is written in a language.
Okay, fine. How it would actually work.
I'm vibing with this. I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Well, how it would actually work is you would actually have a hardware component that outputs. So some sort of hardware component that the input will be raw voltage, and the output will be either off or on. That's the output. So off would be 0, on equals 1. And that's the actual output that this hardware component gives you. And that hardware component gets fed into a register in RAM. So if this is like just raw, hardwired, very basic computers back in the early 50s or 60s, then you would just read that output directly from RAM. right from here, and you'd probably be wiring together the code instead of writing a compiler for it. So instead of wiring together the code, at some point somebody realized, oh, well, instead of wiring stuff together, I can just write some sort of software that can automate that process for me. And then stuff sort of started turning into digital rather than physical. That was the original interface between digital and physical was, well, we have all these analog systems that have raw voltage, and we want to turn those into variables. So how do we turn raw voltage into variables? And that's the history of software engineering.
Because that's what the tubes were, vacuum tubes, right?
I don't know enough about that, but
yeah, vacuum tubes are it's basically just like it's like a light bulb that's representing the on and off, which is a raw voltage.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. That sounds right.
Well, yeah, because vacuum tubes is what preceded the binary. It came before the transistor, so the transistor is what replaced the vacuum tubes.
Gotcha. It's all analog. It's just we've been fooled into thinking it's digital.
Fascinating. There's your CS lesson for the day, kids.
No, so off topic. I should probably get into the NPM publish. So this NPM publish, it'll publish it to it'll just push it to NPM, and there's not much going on here. I think if I tried, I could probably I think I could probably find like an actual live NPM publish command if I'm lucky. Maybe not, but this is the NPM publish command, and all I have to do is, if I'm in the Ragged directory, if I do NPM publish, it'll try to publish it, and it'll fail because I haven't incremented the version. So it'll first, and then it'll ask me to authenticate my account because I'm not authenticated. So I'll hit, when I do NPM publish, it'll ask me to publish it to registry. And then I'll have to like log in and stuff, but I'm not going to do that. But that's how the workflow works, is that you authenticate your CLI and you can just publish right from your CLI. You don't need GitHub Actions or anything like that. So you can just publish directly from CLI. And there's plenty of tutorials on how to publish. The one gotcha that I found was that I wanted to publish so that this is a full stack app. So if I published something, the old-fashioned way of doing it would be main, and then I point to ragged.js or something like that. That's the old-fashioned way of pointing at the entry file. So if you do import ragged, then what you're actually going to be importing is the contents of ragged.js. But that's the old-fashioned way of doing things, because that doesn't support all the different packaging options that we have now. So instead of that, exports is kind of like the new way of doing main. And learning how exports works is really, really important, because I spent probably 2 days just trying to figure out exactly how to publish NPM without breaking stuff. And to be honest, I halfway just gave up, and I did something less complicated than I wanted to do. So you can do stuff like export for Node, and then export for CommonJS, and then there's stuff for types, and you can define all of your types. You can also define what happens if I do it. Like, how do I explain this? This is the convention over here that exposes the public interface for the package to the people who are downloading it. So they'll only be able to see what you expose over here. They shouldn't be able to see anything that you don't expose over here. So you define your entire import structure inside exports. And that's super important if you want to give a really good developer experience, because you don't want people to just be able to import everything. You want to give them the stuff that's relevant so that they don't depend on internals, because your internals are going to change.
Yeah.
So this is really important when you're building an NPM.
Can I see your root package.json? Because this is the one in Ragged right now. And so this then uses the Ragged as a dependency, and that's where the workspace is bringing it into the root level.
Correct.
Okay, great.
I'm not even sure if I need this, to be honest. The root package.json is just there because...
and I can see that this is just like the NPM I-yes boilerplate. You got an empty description, keyword, author, and the license is ISC.
yeah, exactly.
Let's fill those in right now. Give yourself a description.
Yeah, I probably should. It's MIT licensed, really. So the license is here.
You better change that then.
I probably should. I wonder what shows up on GitHub. So if I go to GitHub and I see Ragged, then the license doesn't show up over here. So you're right. I need to change that so that people can see that it's MIT licensed. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to get around to it.
Cool. Was there anything else in the Ragged package.json that you still wanted to explain? Like the scripts is just doing a build script, which is running a test suite. Are there actual tests?
Yep.
What are the tests? Look at those. Exciting.
Yeah, it's the driver is tested somewhat, so it's got tests that are actually
useful. Emit declaration only.
So what this does is it doesn't output code; it only outputs the types. And that's important because if you go into build, and if I go and I have a VS Code ignore, just a sec. So if I go into build, and if I look at ragged.js, this is ragged.js. It's like this big monster.
Sure, yeah.
But then if I go into main.dts, then these are the type definitions. And if you look in source, then everything you see, they're just DTS files. And these are all just type declarations that are automatically generated. And that's what emit, that's what that flag does inside.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't use TypeScript a whole lot, so that's why I like TSC stuff, TS Node stuff are things that I've used just very sparingly. One thing I did want to ask though, could we go into the Ragged SRC folder?
Yeah.
And then just go to like ragged.ts, or whatever the kind of root file.
Sure, ragged.ts is a good one.
Kind of curious. Yeah.
The root file is main, so this is the main.
Okay, and that imports Ragged, and Ragged is implemented as a class, right?
Yes, and then there's also T, which is this is the tool builder. So
right. We talked about that a lot last time, so that makes sense. You're talking about importing T.
Yes.
Cool.
What do you want to do? Do you want to start building that thing on your end?
Well, there's a couple other questions I had. So, in terms of like Node CLI stuff, so Ragged is not a CLI. It's like a library that you like actually write in your JavaScript code. So it's a little bit different from what I'm going to be building out. And I had mentioned Yargs to you. And are you familiar with that at all? And have you ever built out like a CLI tool with Node before? I guess is my question generally.
I've used Yargs. I prefer Commander, but
let's take a look at that then. Tell me about Commander. Tell me why you prefer it, because I did look at that and Yargs briefly and wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to pick. So this is going to be super useful for me because I need to like pick one and really go all in on it.
Okay. Well, I like Commander because it's the first one that I picked up, and it was really easy to understand what it was doing. So Yargs is, I think, a little lower level and much more powerful, but I don't really need all that power. So I just use Commander because it's just easier and I'm more familiar with it. So here's a typical command, a typical program with Commander. This would be the main file.
Can you bump up your
program.parse would be, this is what actually parses the inputs.
Can you bump up your font first? And then just say the last part again, sorry.
Sure. So here's a typical Commander program from their docs. And program.parse, just starting at the bottom here, program.parse, this is where it parses the arguments that were passed into the Node script. So you can imagine if you do like some like ls. If you do ls dash a, then dash a is inside your dash a is part of the context of your CLI program, right? So program.parse does all the hard work of parsing the actual command line arguments. And then you have the actual program. The program itself has a name, a description, a version, and then it has commands. So here, this thing would be, you'd be able to do string util, split, and then pass an argument. And you can pass in a couple of options. So one is first, so just display the first substring. The second is -s, so you can specify a custom separator character. But what you're doing is string util, split, and then the string itself. And here's the handler that will handle the CLI command. And all the parsing of the CLI command is done by program.parse, so you don't have to worry about the low-level stuff.
Okay, and then yeah, no, that was super useful. Fuzzy Bear was talking about, he has a course apparently about Commander. I told him to drop a link, and I'll share that, or I'll go find it later and put it in. So let me show you this. I'll show you what I got to with Yargs. Yeah. So let me go to share screen. So this was kind of, and I'd never used Yards before, so I kind of built this with ChatGPT, just like writing a bunch of code for me, and it probably ended up being totally ridiculous. So I've got this like giant file. It's doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I need to like remind myself what the hell is even happening here. So let me pull this up next to the one that I ended up having finished. So this is where we had the bash script that I was showing last time. And then this is what I was trying to implement all just in Node. So you had the ytdlp command here and here. So this is where it's extracting the audio, and then the whisper command is happening down here. And I had abstracted kind of just like one-off commands that then were all being run kind of, or not one-off commands, one-off encapsulated functions that then were being called, I think, at the, yes, here is where they all get. So you fetch the metadata, extract the info, download audio, transcribe audio, transform to markdown, and then generate markdown from metadata. So I ended up with like this huge nested structure of functions that are doing each of the things. And here's the actual Yarg stuff. It's just the option is an alias where you can feed it the URL and then type string. So this is what you were just showing in terms of Commander does kind of this part. And I think that's going to make a lot more sense if I start thinking of that first, like what's the functionality, what are the flags? Because I did end up getting it to where I have 3 things that I know are going to be the baseline functionality that I want this to do just to start with. I want to be able to give it a playlist, and then it will run on all the videos in the playlist. I want to give it just a single video, and it'll just run on a single video. And then I want to be able to give it just a list of URLs. So if someone just wanted to go grab a couple of YouTube videos, put them in just a file, just list them all out, and then run that arbitrarily, they can do that. So these would be the first 3 things that I would want to do. And it seems like what you're just showing me with Commander is going to be great for that, because I can basically just have flags that do each of these kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. And once you install it, NPM, it exposes this thing called a scripts declaration. So if you look at the scripts declaration, you can, That's where you put in, you can put in 1, you can put in 2, you can put in 3, but this is where you can put in all of the scripts. Oh, sorry, my bad, not scripts, bin, my bad.
Bin. Yeah, I was like, this is just like regular scripts, but
yes.
Bin, npm bin. I know this is the bin command. This is not what I want. This is why I hate npm's documentation. I want npm package.json bin is what I actually want. And so we want this. We want to go here. This is what we want, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I always have
So
trouble finding exactly what I want on the NPM docs, but
me too,
so this
man.
is where
Horrible.
the bin is just arbitrary scripts. So that's why even here they're talking about like if you have a CLI, like CLI.js.
Exactly.
And then you're
then
running
my
this
app will
NPM.
become a global, so you'll be able to just run my app from your CLI, and that's how Prisma does its thing. I'm guessing is it'll just install the binary using NPM, and you get it available globally everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, cool, great. So we're getting close to the hour mark here. So this is going to require me doing a lot of hacking and a lot of forward and backwards and stuff, breaking and me kind of figuring out. This is gonna be a good learning exercise for me. So instead of like having you painfully walk me through that whole process, I'm gonna do that on my own. And then next time we meet up, I can kind of show you how far I got. You can help me out. I think that'll be probably the thing to do. Were there other things you wanted to talk about in terms of just Ragged or this whole process, or kind of just like learnings you've had along the way from doing all this?
I think the easier thing to do would be, sorry, not easier, but yeah, I agree with you. I think just if I was to give you a heads up and kind of easier, like give you like a tip to make your work a little easier. If I were you, I would sort of publish something fast and then incrementally publish versions. So your 0.0.1 might be just an empty thing that does nothing. And then 0.0.2 might be a hello world. And going from nothing to hello world is going to be kind of painful in itself because you'll figure out issues.
Well, probably what I'm going to do, if you're okay with this, is I'm just going to fork your repo and kind of like just delete all the Ragged stuff, just so I have like the baseline set up, and then kind of see where that gets me.
I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it.
Okay.
But I
You
wouldn't
wouldn't recommend it. Okay, why?
Because it's actually going to be harder to remove stuff than it is to add stuff, because it's actually dead simple to create NPM packages.
Okay.
So I would, if I were you, I would just make a little package, and we could do it probably in 10 minutes. Or
let's do it then. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So let me share my screen again.
Cool.
Okay. So should I start with the repo I already have, or should I start with a blank repo?
Let's start with a new one. So let's start with a brand new repo, and
okay.
I'm
just gonna call it autogen npm. Okay. So do I start by initializing NPM package?
Yep. And you might want to give it a name that's, I think autogen might be taken, but
let me just do autogen AJC. How about that?
Cool. That's probably not taken. So for version, do you care, or do you want to make it like?
Let's just start with that, or
Cool.
that.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, that's perfect. And you might want to add a README. Just
do I need a ignore?
I'm sorry.
Do I need a git ignore?
Do I need to git ignore? Probably not for this initial thing.
Not even a .ds_store. I guess you're not on a Mac, so that's not a thing for you.
The magic here is that this has nothing to do with Git, so you can manage it however you want. If you want to do a Git init and do all that, we can do that. So let's do it.
Okay. Let me just do this first then. Let me do this here because I got warp, so we're gonna do GC and then create. Hold on, that's not what I want. Sorry. have a massive command that usually comes up. Let me just grab this real quick for sake of simplicity. This is the one. Okay, that's good.
Cool. What terminal is this? It's nice.
Yeah, it's Warp. So it's they're like a VC funded kind of company. And yeah, it's just nice. It gives you like kind of functionality. You can kind of like click around and just makes it easier to work with stuff in general. And usually like if I just did that would come up. That's why I was like kind of thrown off. So I'm like, where's my giant command?
Gotcha. Okay. So you have your GitHub set up, package.json. I think you might have to give it a main.js, even if it's empty.
Okay.
Or index.js.
Let me do an index.js. And you want me to just console log something?
Hello world or something. Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then if you want to commit that, you can commit that. Yeah. And now you can do an NPM publish.
Okay. Yep. So am I gonna have to?
So you need to log in. So you can follow registry. Let's see. You need to authorize. And right. So type npm add user like it says over there. All one word. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So go over there.
Let me just for the sake of
I'm
just gonna do this off screen just for a second. So I don't know what's about to happen right now. And geez, do I even have an NPM account?
It's easy to start one.
Yeah, let's this shouldn't take me very long.
I think you might have to enable 2FA to be able to publish, but
that's what I'm. Yeah, I think pretty sure that's the case. So I need to do a puzzle to verify that I'm a human. Boo, boo, boo. That train is pointing right. Caesar, so silly. Okay, create account, and then set one-time password to my email, which I definitely don't want to be showing on screen. Okay, and just real quick while I'm doing this, do you understand this comment?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have to make it executable and change the owner so that the file is owned by the current owner. But I'm not sure. It might be something that you have to do, maybe not, because it's a Node.js file. So I wonder if you actually have to chown the script. Maybe not. It's permission stuff, Linux permission stuff.
Makes sense. Okay, I'm just cleaning
That's
up
good point.
my screen real fast, closing all my tabs and stuff. And definitely close my 1Password. Okay. Oops. Oh. Now I gotta do another one-time password at the CLI. Yeah, this is probably gonna be the most complicated part. Okay. Sweet. Let me share my stuff again. Okay, so did it work? I think it did.
Check it out. I think it did.
Wow. Oh, baby.
I think you just go to NPM and look for autogen-jjc.
Hey, look at that.
There you go.
Hey, man, you're right. That was easy. Sweet.
Yeah. Now, the difficult part is, okay, I'm going to try and install it on my local, and I'm going to see if it actually works.
Cool. Good stuff.
So,
do you want to share, or if something happens interesting, feel free to.
Yeah. Let me share.
Cool. I'll add that to the stage.
All right. So I'm going to do npm add autogen AJC. Hope there's no malware on there. And that added just fine.
There you go.
And yeah,
there it is.
Look at that. You got your first user. So that added just fine. And then I'm going to just import autogen AJC. There you go. Your code is running on my machine.
Hell yeah. That's tight. That was a really great Hello World exercise, actually. That was sweet. Great. Thanks for doing that with me.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the next question is, well, how do you create scripts? And if you wanted to export something, how do you do that? So you just have to, for the bin, you can like just do something like this and call it, I don't know, AJC. I'm just going to call it AJC. And you would do something like that inside your package.json. And then you can go inside index.js and then start building your code. And I think that should actually be enough. That should actually work. And if you do that right now, and I can be your first tester, and then if we do it in the next like 10 minutes, I think we can say we publish an NPM package.
Great.
Or we can do it next time. Up to you.
Yeah, so my mind's already going to thinking of the actual like autogen stuff, because what I'm thinking is like there's kind of two directions that I need to go with this from, which is that I need to be able to execute the NPM scripts, which is what you just said. And then I also need to get my thing into a form where either I'm going to call the bash script from NPM or try to do what I did the first time where I actually build it out from the... So basically, my mind's just kind of going in a million directions right now. So I kind of froze up there. So yeah, no, I think we should call it here. I think I kind of want to think about where I want to take this from here, because and it's just like me going through this stuff. I just want to kind of like take notes and like write stuff as I'm doing it, and possibly like turn this into a blog post as well. So but where you got me is like super useful, and I super appreciate it. But I think this is probably be a good place for us to stop.
I can sense the excitement. So awesome. Let me know if you need any help. Always here. And if you get stuck or anything, I think the main stuff that I'm sort of worried about is, well, you have a lot of stuff in C++. So how are you going to do that in Node? And you can call C++ from Node, but the problem with C++ is you'll have to compile it before you actually push it. So and you'll have to compile it for like all sorts of different architectures. So it might be easier when possible to actually convert the code into Node and have as little C++ as possible. But yeah, I think you got this, man.
Yeah. And there's things with Whisper that can kind of reach out to Node. They have a Node add-on, so I need to look into that as well and kind of see whether it's going to make sense to use that or just try and wrap it myself like you were describing. Yeah, that's gonna get a little, that'll be interesting. But yeah, no, this is such a good project for me to do, because I've like already learned a bunch having done it, and it's actually like forcing me to interface with a lot of stuff that I haven't before, just being a lowly front end developer slinging divs and React components.
Nah, man. Like this is gonna be so much fun. Let me know if I can do anything.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, are you cool kind of continuing to do these like maybe once a week or something? And then we can also work on Ragged stuff at the same time. I kind of want to make this as worthwhile for you as possible, and I'll just have you like not just build out my stuff, but I think I really am enjoying the Ragged stuff. And I'll say there's a way we can combine the two in a sense, because there's no library in what I'm doing right now that does the LLM part. Like I'm reaching out to. So really, I think these two things I think can arrive in a similar direction in one sense. So I would really like to keep doing these every week with you.
I'd love that. Yeah, I can see a few ways to do it. Maybe we can have a natural language interface instead of a CLI interface or something similar. I don't know, but yeah, for sure.
Things. Yeah, cool, man. That's exciting. Great. So for people who want to keep following along, this is AJC Web Devs on the internet everywhere. You can find me on YouTube at AJC Web Dev, like so. And then Monarch, you are at, I think you're just Monarch Wadia on Twitter. just straight up name. So we got that as well for people who want to check out your stuff. And if someone wants to hire you, you're hireable.
Yes, and maybe I should drop my LinkedIn because that seems to be the thing to do. So, oh, I have to connect it. Do you wanna drop it?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it was the first thing to come up when.
Thank you. A Fuzzy TV just said, "I love the stream, Heart." Yeah, feelings mutual.
Man. Yeah, no, Fuzzy's a good buddy. He's been following a lot of my content for a while. So
he just said, FYI, I bleeping hate Python.
That's your LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we are doing all of this without Python. We're bucking the AI trend. We're doing all JavaScript front to back, nothing but JavaScript tooling. So yeah.
I think that's the future, honestly. Python is great, but I have opinions. So okay, cool, before I become less employable, I should stop dissing Python.
Funny. All right, so yeah, we will catch you guys, I think, same time next week, if that's good with you.
Yep, absolutely. That works.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Anthony.